Okay, so let's just go ahead and dive right into this. One of the things that I went into with this particular dance, you're gonna notice it definitely has more of a groove to it, and that's why I always tell people that, not just your ability to dance and what you've been doing for a very long time, but even the tracks that you choose will play a huge part in what you're able to do. I'm a musician as well, and I tend to find this true even in music. I tend to come up with very different ideas depending on whether I'm using, say, an orchestral palette, say that's strings or brass, or if I'm just playing around with piano sounds or even particular synths. They all kind of lead me in a very different direction, which I may have never even had unless I'd use that sound. I may have never gone in that direction before. There's no precedent for it. But as soon as I used it, it's just like the creative spirit or hack in me just wants to go a different direction than it would have if I was using a different sound. And it's the same thing with the dances that you do depending on the song you use. And so this one definitely had more of a groove to it, and you're going to see how I play around with that in this one.
We hear that.
Now, before we get into that section, I do just want to say that a lot of people do wonder where to take their arms and legs. And I'll admit this is even something that I sometimes struggle with, knowing what to do with my arms and legs at given points. And if you can't tell already, I'm not doing anything special there. I'm literally just moving them in whatever direction I see fit, because I feel like, you know what, as long as I'm hitting the beat, that's what's going to work here. And the nice thing is your spacing. A lot of people don't really emphasize that as much as they should, but if you're not sure where to take your arm or your leg or position your body, just play around with the spacing either in between or around you to create different shapes or to kind of have a different vibe going on as you move into your other moves. Again, there wasn't anything I was doing special there. I just gave it a little bit of a groove and kind of put my arms and legs wherever I saw fit. But here you're definitely going to see some more groove channeled in here. And that's why, if you can't tell, I think I was channeling a little bit of Michael Jackson in there. I mean, the hat speaks for itself. But what I was doing there essentially was, breaking a bit of what most people would consider conventional for popping animation. And at that point, I'm not going by genre rules. I'm just going by what I feel in the music. And I think that's really what's going to separate you from other dancers as you start to create your own freestyle flow, because a lot of dancers will tend to box themselves very much to the genre rules. Oh, you can only use dime stops. Oh, you can only use arm waves. Oh, you can only move your body in this way. If you're not looking very stiff and robotic, it's not popping animation. What are you even doing? And I'm like, sure, you could do that to every song that you come across, but it's going to start looking the same, and it's not going to hit the song nearly as well as if you just thought for a second to yourself, you know what, I don't think that really works with this. Or it does. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you're a good dancer, you can make it work with anything. But let's go beyond good to great, right? Let's go beyond we can make this look good because we're just good at dancing at this point, and make it great because now it's actually sinking in and it's actually connecting not just with the music but with the audience, the people watching it, and they feel that groove in you. If you're moving like a robot to a beat like that, I mean, sure, it wows the audience, but it doesn't really connect with them in the same way. Like if a noob, if somebody who doesn't quote unquote know how to dance was dancing to this, do you really think they'd be dancing like a robot? That's kind of the mindset I tend to have when I do these things is, you know what, I'm just going to dance to this how I see fit. And that's kind of one thing that you should really do as you go into these, because it's going to unlock your creativity, not to box yourself in this way. So we're just going to go into the slow-mo bit here and kind of go over that a little bit more. And I will just highlight for a second there, of course, when you're just starting out or you haven't really developed your move set quite at the level that you want yet, it definitely helps to put in some practice. Believe me, I could not bend my knee that far down until I just dedicated myself to, you know what, I'm going to learn this thing that iGlide does with his knee. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it because it's just so awesome, and you can take it in so many different places the same way he does. Now, of course, I can't bend my knee or go as low as he can. It's not the same thing at all. But it's something pretty close and kind of like my own spin on it that I don't see a lot of people use that much. So, if you have that one move that you really want to use, like, don't shy away from it. I want you to really develop freestyle flow in your own way that doesn't get boxed in by flashy moves or dance genre concepts. But at the same time, I want you to understand that, if I couldn't use that move, where else would I have taken that moment? It wouldn't have looked as cool. It wouldn't have allowed me to create angles and kind of moods in my moves if I had used something else, right? If I was just standing up, if I was just like in a sitting down position, like being in that position really allows me to create a different energy altogether. And of course, it allows me to snake into all other kinds of moves, which is why I love using it so much. So like, if you have that one move you really want to use, by all means, go ahead and learn it, master it, because then that's just one more tool in your tool belt that you can use at any given time when you're like, what move should I use at this point? Of course, moves aren't everything, but moves definitely will help you with your freestyle flow. Now let's get to the drop here.
Let me hear that.
And so, of course, you're going to hear me just drill this into you as many times as possible. But, I always like to say simple is best. There's so many different places I could have taken that drop, because it definitely has a lot of energy to it. But my mindset was just, let's just stick to the basic beat and kind of allow that to dictate where we take it. So I'm using very simple moves, right? I'm moving my arms in slightly robotic ways. I'm waving and kind of dime stopping into very specific positions and not going beyond that. I'm not trying to create anything crazy here. And I'm just kind of shuffling my feet a little bit, kind of skiffing them a bit. Skiffing, I guess I just made a new word here. Just kind of shuffling them a little bit, I'm not moving a ton in my space, and I'm not trying to create this wow, but I think it's because I'm not doing that it allows you to really focus in on the small moves as they match to the beat. And again, like I always tell people, instead of going big all the time, like a lot of people want to go big when they start dancing, practice doing things a little bit more subtly, because you'll often find that regardless of what you bring to the table, like you can always use subtle, and it always makes an interesting contrast, especially when you do it to songs that maybe are a little bit bigger, so to speak. So you can never really go wrong with simplifying things. You never go wrong with toning it down a little bit, no matter what the vibe of the song is. But of course, if you want to go big, by all means, do that. I'm just kind of giving you what I decided was good for me to do in this song. Now here's another thing I want you to pay attention to here. Notice how in the beginning of that section there, I was kind of playing around with my hat. I was kind of playing around with the angles around my head and into my chest. When you decide that you're not sure, like you're not exactly sure where to take the next move, I always tell people, if there's something around you, say there's a pole, say there's a chair, say you've got some baggy clothing on you, you're wearing a hat, a watch on your wrist, even a ring on your finger, like the big and the small, the obvious and the not so obvious, I try to play around with them as much as I can. And I think that's something that, you often see a lot of great dancers, whether they bring a prop specifically for it or there just happens to be something around them and they play with it. This really goes well into even when you mess up in a move and you don't really know where to take it because like your earphone popped out for a second or like, you kind of lost your footing there, you can use that. You can kind of bring it into your dance and create something completely different because without it, you were just doing the vanilla stuff, right? But once you use those things, if you don't know where else to take it, use something on your shirt. I actually was just watching a dance video the other day where somebody like brought their arm out of their sleeve, snaked it through their clothing and snaked it back into the sleeve. Like I thought that was so perfect, like that it was not only unique but it was like exactly what I tell people, use whatever you have. If you're really not sure where to take your moves, like man, if you need to take a step back and just focus for a few minutes on, okay, how wacky can I get, how unique can I make this, like what are things that maybe other people have used that I could take to another level, what are things that nobody's been doing. Say you're using a shoe, you took a shoe off for a second and you played around with that somehow in your dance, or, of course, jackets are a perfect way, whether you're taking it on and off, you're moving your arms through your sleeves, kind of pulling it one way and the other as you move the rest of your body and dime stop there. Like there's so many things you could do, even just with what's already on your person that, it really helps you with developing that extra level of creativity that once you practice it often enough, it's a go-to. Like what I just did there, I would have never thought to do that 7 years ago when I first started dancing. Now doing stuff like that, it just, if I don't know where else to take it, whether I'm aware of that consciously or not, I will just immediately go into moves like that because it's just something that I've practiced on and on. And that's something that's really going to help you with your creativity. So let's just get right back into this.
Let me hear that.
And one other thing that I noticed I've been doing a lot in this video specifically, there were parts where I was quote unquote playing the piano, right? And those sections are really gonna help. Like if there's an instrument that you want to play to, whether it's a guitar, a trumpet, a piano, of course you could always use that in your freestyle, pretend like you're playing it, pretend you're moving to a particular sound, or even create a make-believe object that corresponds to the synth or the instrument. There's so many different ways that you could take that and make a move. I didn't know what to do in that section, but I felt like, dude, the piano really sticks out here, so let me just pretend like I'm playing the piano, dime stop a bit, move that into other moves. Like there's so many things that the music already provides you that you could work with. Literally you got to look at this like multidisciplinary. music, dance. For me, oftentimes public speaking and personal development, there's so many different concepts that I take from places that don't even seem to have anything to do with dance, but the cadence of how one speaks on stage, or the concepts or the emotions that get evoked when you learn something from a really good personal development post on Instagram. I mean, you have no idea the kinds of inspiration I have when it comes to my dancing, because I use it all. Whether it just creates an emotion or whether it actually moves me into, this is how I can kind of move the cadence, or this is how I can kind of snake into another vibe, all from things that have nothing on surface level, anything to do with dance. But, I just kind of want to wrap it up there and leave that with you guys real quick. As you can tell in the background, there are some people that are waiting on me, so I'm just going to cut it here short. But I hope you got something out of this. I'll see you guys in the next video.